Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Mind Muscle Connection. I'm Joe Klemczewski with Tyler Weeb. Today, we're going to talk about big goals, which I think everybody should seek to attain. And I like Tyler's, to try to tie things as much as we can back to cognitive psychology or social psychology and look at what culture is telling us is important in terms of self-development. But I think we also have to make sure we separate that from just the bestseller woo-woo kind of information that we get. And this is one of those areas because I probably have bookshelves like lined with goal attainment things, all of these like David Goggins and all that. And I'm that guy who loves to achieve things. I think my background, confirms that. But I think we have to do something as far as an entire arc, or we get lost in that. Because how many times, Tyler, have you seen somebody pursue something really, really major? They're working so hard to get to the end of that degree, or they want to win this pro card or win this pro title. And then when that day is finished, where are they? Where do they go? What's next? And there is such a massive drop off, almost a literal rebound depression. So I want to talk about goal attainment in that framework and what to do next. When you get to that day, what's the next thing? And I think we have to back all the way up to, why did you even start that? What did it mean to you? So, I typically kind of land between those two worlds, academic and then kind of, performance and so forth, the two things that I've chosen to really sink my career into. But I just wonder what that does in your mind in terms of a topic. Where does that take you?
It takes me back to my last contest prep, really, because I remember, really going through some of those post-show blues, and you'll hear like a lot of competitors talk about that after the show, because then it, like you said, it does become, oh, well, what's next, right? And I know I've talked about my last show a little bit on this, and how much I did put into it, and how proud I was of it. And yeah, you get almost so caught up in the present, because at a certain point in a contest prep, you are living day to day. Because if you think about, the future, you're just going to see more hunger, more cardio. And so it's just best to kind of go, this is where I'm at right now. And so you kind of just push your head down and kind of keep putting in the work without really thinking too much about, post show. You're just trying to get to the show at that point. And, when you do put that much of yourself into something like that, you can almost get lost in the weeds a little bit, because you've worked 6-7 months of just prep, not even thinking about all the time you spent building. So, we're talking about years of building up to this single moment. And I always find it, kind of, funny, if you will, is that you're on stage for a total of 5 minutes, maybe that day, and then it's over, then it's done. And it's like this sheer drop off all of a sudden of, I have been working so damn hard. I've been tracking my macros to a T, to the point where like we're tracking gum, and all of this cardio, and just like that, it's over, it's gone. And everything that you've kind of, poured yourself into, it's almost over. And so you kind of almost bring your head out of the sand, if you will, and go, oh, now what? Like, I got to get back to, whatever's considered normal life. What does that even look like and mean? Because prep has become such a normal. And so you may have wrapped up a lot of your identity into this prep for the last 6, 7, 8 months, what have you. And all of a sudden you've got to kind of almost find this new identity, or get your old one back, if you will. I don't want to say maybe a new one, but you have to recalibrate.
Yeah. And I was just talking to a coach today in my facility about this. And he even said with his own training, like he's just in this cycle right now where he's finding it's just not as full of zeal. It's like, there are just, he said, I know those workouts and those times where I just can't wait to get in the gym. It's the highlight of my week. And then there are times where it's like, yeah, I'm going to get it in there and my training in, and it's going to be great. And then other times he really feels like he has to drag himself in. And what you're describing from a post-contest perspective, I think you just can't find a more critical and dire example, because other things that happen. I mean, postpartum depression has almost a physiological, angle to that, very foundationally. And again, like when you graduate from college or something, typically you're now going to elevate your career in some way. You're going to pursue this next job. And so there's a next step. You're diving right into that next level. Yet with something like that is very self-driven and self-determined, there is a massive letdown. And I think, again, if you can keep it in context, and I feel like it's almost a concession in some people's mind, where if they're thinking past that goal, well, it proves I don't want it enough. Or if I'm thinking past that goal, I'm not giving it all I can. I've got to put all of my eggs in that basket. I've got to burn my bridges. Like, this is do or die. But even if you win, you're still faced with the same thing of what's next. So I think we have to consider that in the context of whether it's pursuing this, like a new job or a new career, a new degree, or this next level in your contest prep. It is part of a bigger chain. It's one link. So as soon as you are done with that, win or lose, what is your plan? Don't wait until that night or the next day to decide. Already have in mind that this segment of your career is for something, and what are you going to do that next day?
One maybe quick curious side note is, we all know about kind of the show day high. So I'd be curious to see, because we know dopamine rises in anticipation of an event. So I'm curious to, we get so excited because we're almost there, that we have almost this buildup of dopamine prior to the show. Massive dopamine dump show day. We did it. We accomplished. And then I wonder if we're almost like in that negative balance, over those next couple of days. I don't know. Just a curious thought that kind of randomly popped into my head.
Yeah. Well, first, from a neurochemical perspective, I don't know if you run out of dopamine, like, that's, from MDMA, am I saying that right? In your brain, like there is a chemical threshold. And when you kind of squeeze out all the serotonin in your brain, it can take several days to recalibrate. But you nailed it perfectly by saying dopamine is the pursuit neurotransmitter. And so what happens is that next day, if you don't have something to pursue, you just don't feel it. Yeah. And so you're not going to release it. And that's why I said, win, lose, or draw, you have to have something that you're really excited about. And I feel like I just got kind of lucky in the fact that I never really enjoyed the stage experience. I was never going to be, I won shows and I got up to a, decent pro level and all that. But, it was always a battle within the battle, and there were sequential steps to take. And so I had to think in terms of that long-term career trajectory. It wasn't going to be just like win, 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 win. And so for me, the fun was always in the training. I loved the off season. I couldn't wait for that next week to increase my calories, so my squat was going to go back up again. And, to this day, 40 years of training, I'm still, you should see the leg workout we just did. Very reminiscent of when you were here. In Evansville.
I did
a very similar leg workout today.
Yeah.
I've got nothing that I'm training for except for that pure pleasure of, longevity and strength and functionality. But that's the expectation in my mind. And that is set on a much longer track than just one day.
Yeah. Yeah. And whenever, I bring a client out of a dieting phase or, a prep or anything like that, I try to focus on a few things to get them to look forward to. Because I always feel like you need to set a goal. Building muscle is not a goal, because it doesn't have this no, I am going to do X, right? Building muscle is kind of urethral. It doesn't really mean anything other than just, building muscle. So I always like to have some strength goals. Once we get past the initial recovery phase of the diet, we're not testing any 5-rep maxes, a week post show. But once we're kind of getting into a more comfortable spot, calories have come up a little bit, maybe body fat's come up just a tiny little bit. We've restored some of our glycogen. I go, okay, we need some strength goals, because we need to get ourselves excited about coming to the gym and give us something to work towards. Because again, building muscle is just kind of this, this thing that we say. So if I can go, no, okay, I want to bench whatever 225, I want to hip thrust 315. Okay, let's set that. Like, let's make that a goal. And it can be kind of whatever you want. I want to start doing pull-ups again. Maybe you lost your pull-up strength over the course of a prep. It can really honestly be anything you want, as long as it's something that you're going to enjoy pursuing towards, and it's something like that. On the other hand, I also want them to start reconnecting with a more normal balance of life compared to the gym. So we're reducing cardio, or we're transferring our cardio to outside and doing other things. Maybe it's getting back into another, like a hobby, a sport. Like it's something else to occupy your time, because you're not going to be doing as much cardio on the treadmill or what have you. You're not going to be as intensely weighing your food. And so to find things to start reconnecting with other parts of your life is pretty important. Of course, unless, prepping and bodybuilding is your life, then that is a different story. But I think for most people, it's going to be something that they do. I don't want to say a hobby, but you kind of know what I'm getting at is, they may compete only once every 3-4 years. And so we do need other things that are going to fill our time, family time, etc.
I had 3 points in my notes for this particular session, and you just covered all 3 of them in that segment. Number 1, it is that, first of all, just going back to dopamine, which you brought up, that is something to manage. So dopamine research now shows us, the newest research, everybody wants dopamine. It's the pursuit hormone, goals, go get it.
Synthetic drug.
But what it does is it amplifies chaos. It amplifies our impulsive nature. So if you just chaotically pursue a goal, then you're feeding into that frenetic energy. And what I'm talking about is backing up and having a more logical plan. You want to have that energy. You want it to mean everything to you. But I think we have to remind ourselves that we are capable of pretty complex, layered thinking. And I can give everything I can to that goal and know that that's just a sub goal in this larger arc of my goals. So managing dopamine is critical, meaning as soon as you're done with something, you have to know that you can celebrate that. It was great. Again, win, lose, or draw, it was that step you needed to take. Now, what's that next thing? And I was going to use strength goals as an example also, because again, speaking to this coach today, I said, in my entire career, that was the most fun I've ever had, is when I was pursuing a really serious strength goal that took me 6 months or a year or even 2 years. I mean, I think I was pursuing a 500-pound deadlift for like 10 years, and I finally got it. And then I jumped way over to like 525, 535. But the third point is what you said. Take those times then to throttle back. Every time I finish a master's degree, which I just kind of do these things for self-learning and fun, it's got my entire attention for a year or two. Like that's all you can do with your spare time. I'm devoting an entire day a week to it. I'm studying at night. I'm doing all these things. Very similarly, when that's finished, I'm like, wow, now what do I do? Like, I was given 20 hours a week to this, and now what do I do? I have to be ready to do something productive, or I'll fall into that void of just feeling, aimless. And so I really, really, really do feel we were talking about this off camera. And one of the things that I told you is, it's not how hard somebody's working. It's not, are they working enough? It's, are you working on the right thing? And that's where the logic comes in over dopamine. Use logic to know you have a plan, and then you can unleash as much dopamine as you want into that, which I'm a fan of, but it has to be part of that overall strategy.
Yeah. And like you said, like we were talking a little bit about this off camera, and it's so important, to have. I'm going to reiterate kind of your point here, because I think, it is so important, is you've got to have that direction. We have to know, like, logically where we're going. And so, it's almost like you got to have your vision board. right? At the very top, you've got this big overarching goal. Actually, I'm legit thinking about doing this like for myself. I think this may not be a bad idea to just have right up in the office. And boom, boom, boom. You've got work your way backwards, extrapolate backwards. Big goal. Okay, now what do I need to do to reach that goal? And it's obviously going to have to recalculate. We can't completely control life. That is going to throw us curveballs. This is where that diet break comes in. All of a sudden you need that back-to-back refeed day, and you need to quick recalibrate because something happened. But it's not that it changes like the general principle of those sub goals, working towards that big goal. I also would like a 500-pound deadlift too, please.
Hey, I think you're on your way.
Yeah, we're there. We're at like a 405, 410 for a single right now. So we're coming.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, when it comes to strength and physique sport, there is nothing like that grind. Just, if you want your adrenaline to be just coursing through your body hours before your workout, the night before that workout. I mean, like you said, don't have a goal of I'm going to go gain muscle or I'm going to get a good workout. Like literally have that goal and engineer your training and your nutrition toward that. I know that's what we do as coaches for clients. But I want to step back into that layered thinking concept, because the people that I see that really struggle with this, they live in this sense of failure, or they can't function without a goal that's too overpowering. And so coming back to the layered thinking, it's like I can pour all of my energy into this for this part of the day, for how I have things scheduled in the week, that I can still do other things in my life. And when even somebody who has that just, Michael Jordan last dance kind of mindset, where there's just nothing that means more to you than winning, you still have to be okay the day that moment is over, of either reaching toward the next thing and being happy, being okay with whatever the results were. And the people that I see that just can't get that mental balance right, they constantly feel like they're either not good enough, they're failing, they're not achieving what they should. There's always this comparison to some ideal or other people, and it just sucks the life right out of them. And I really, it pains me to see that.
I'm going through that right now. Like that is totally me. And I know on this podcast, like we want to be real and we want to be vulnerable. And that is a state that I am living in right now and really grinding through. There are other things just going on in life, of course, but yeah, it is a hard place to find yourself in. And man, it's just like you got to keep showing up no matter what. And I think I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. And I know we're probably getting to the length here, but you have to be willing to know that your best each day is going to be a little different. It is going to adjust. It is going to be not what you would always expect your best to be. And that's also a very tough thing, because I think, what you said is, living up to this ideology. And I think, throughout just our whole society right now, or at least maybe Western society, it's grind, work. If you're sleeping more than 5 hours a night, you're doing it wrong type of thing. Right. And it's just become this, like, I have to, for some reason, live up to this. And it's just like lifting. We need our deloads. We need to back off. We need to auto regulate ourselves, because you can't just go 110% all the time. You're going to burn out, and you're being selfish. It seems like you need to do that, but you're being selfish because you're doing not only yourself a disservice, but you're doing those around you a disservice too, by just burning yourself out.
I think you just laid out a perfect dual track. If you can ask yourself these two questions at the end of every day, I think it would help bring the intensity into focus, which is, if I died today, am I on the pace to accomplish what I want? Even if I'm not there yet, because, I don't plan on dying today. So there are things I still want to accomplish, but would I be okay? Have I done what I wanted to do? And then the other parallel track to that is, did I enjoy it? If I'm doing this for other people, if I'm doing it for some ideal that was just stupid or wrong because of, Western predatory capitalism, where, like you said, everybody has to be just wedded to this hustle culture, and you do it for the wrong reasons. Do it for what you want. Do it for your own self-development or career development. But both things, man, like, am I happy with how I have performed? And am I enjoying it? Because, like you said, I've had this conversation with a couple different clients this week. A day of neutrality is not a bad day. A day where you did stop and smell the roses is not a bad day. A day when you just relaxed and enjoyed what you've accomplished so far is not a bad day. That's what you're working toward, is to be able to stop and relax and enjoy that, sharpen your axe and then get back in the hunt.
Yeah. Yeah. To kind of bring it, back to, let's say, this whole fitness industry, the hardest thing someone can do is just sit at maintenance for 6 months and just chill and just hang out and just relax. That is the hardest thing for someone to do, because it's all you either got to be building, reversing this, or you got to be losing fat. Man, like, let's just find our maintenance. Let's operate within 300 to 400 calories of that on 80 to 90% of the time. Let's get strong. Let's lift some weights. Let's have good energy. And like you said, stop and smell the roses. Go do something else. Like, you don't need to be in the gym 10 hours, 15 hours a week for your whole life.
All right, man. Well said. Well said. And for all of you guys watching, listening again, go do big things. I mean, both of us endorse that. Do the biggest, hardest things you can, but make sure you're managing them, make sure you're enjoying them, and make sure you're sharing them with the people you love. We'll see you next time in the Mind Muscle Connection.